Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Today we're on Sarah Creek in the York River, and that's fine. I didn't update yesterday because we were so busy. The last video, we were having engine trouble, and we were out in a beautiful, beautiful day, glassy, weirdly glassy ocean, and we were out, so we're at the south end of the bay. We're out with the ocean effect, really nice gentle swells. It was really, really nice. And I really wish we could have made Hampton. That would have been a really good day to make Hampton. Yesterday would have actually been an okay day to make Hampton too, but we didn't because of engine stuff. And today is iffy. Today is when the gale warnings are supposed to actually hit. They issued gale warnings yesterday, and I got a little bit like, ugh, we're not gonna try it. We're not gonna take a half an hour and try to make the engine go. Like, we're not in a hurry. There's no reason to stress out about that. It's just that we're not going to have a weather window for about a week. Probably, We have this one section where I want to be a little cautious getting around the next point between York River and the James and Elizabeth Rivers and Hampton Roads. And so I want a really nice day for that, because I just don't want to mess. I don't want to mess with anything unless we have a brand new engine and we've done our 20 hours and we're on our first oil change. I don't want to mess with a potentially rougher day. Sails, we do sail. We put up sails. We haven't relied on sailing through commercial channels and into anchorages and stuff, because while that's possible and feasible and you can do it, there's no I don't need to do that. I don't need to decide that the wind has died and I'm now dodging a 800-foot container ship or some crazy thing with a 6-foot wake that I'm now broadside beam onto. No, there's no reason for that, right? So I'm not going engineless. And so we're probably going to pick a day where we're motor sailing, and that's totally fine. We may turn it off. Reliable engines, you turn them off, you turn them on, especially if we get the electric start hooked up. That's one of the things that we're dealing with, is that we're still on a pull start. We don't have an electric start hooked up, and that kind of makes it less entertaining, like a lot less entertaining, when you're trying to figure out whether you're going to turn the engine off for a couple hours because you've got 9 knots of wind and it's going the right way or whatever. And the truth is that when we put sails up and we're getting 4 knots, 5 knots, usually more like 3.5 to 4 under sail, and the engine is just kind of idling in forward, like it's in forward gear, but it's just kind of 1/5, one quarter throttle, we're burning less than 1/3 of a gallon an hour. That's okay. I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, it does add $10 to the price of a passage, but a long passage, but it's not that big a deal. Like, we're not that. Even with all the engine trouble on Monday, we only burned 3.5, 4 gallons of fuel, and that's amazing. And that's from Jackson Creek in Deltaville up the York River to where the York River Bridge is at Sarah Creek. So that was fine. It's not great. Not great, not awful. Like, I am still slightly in the mode of, wouldn't it have been nice to get to Hampton? But, I've mostly released that. That's a brain thing. It's not a me thing. Like, I am sitting here in a beautiful cloudy morning. It's like 58 degrees. It's warm. It's wonderful. Everything is fantastic. Like, my soul is very good. So the oil light came on, oil pressure light, but we had plenty of oil. Of course, we panic added some oil without turning the engine off, because you don't know if you're going to get it started again, and you're in the middle of a glassy sea. You're kind of sargassoed. You're like, woof, not enough wind. Not enough wind to actually drift into an anchorage if you call the towboat. Like, you're just out there waiting for potentially 2 or 3 hours until the towboat comes to you. Probably not that long. We're not we weren't that far from things. So, but potentially it could take them an hour to stop eating lunch and go get to the boat. So we kind of panic, did some oil stuff, and probably overfilled the oil a little bit. Been cleaning up and dealing with the engine, making everything nice and pretty so that I can go into it and really get in there. Yesterday was spent with that, getting some supplies. It's very hard to get at the back of the motor with what we've gotten, and the one problem with the inflatable dinghy instead of the hard dinghy is it's very hard for me to get right up in there and wedge myself in to try to get at the oil drain. And we can't actually take the motor off. I don't have anything that's going to lift 100 pounds a foot off the transom, foot behind the transom. The boom's not long enough. I haven't rigged a dinghy motor lift. I've got everything else there. I've got the railing supported, but I don't have a lift yet rigged. So we're not taking the engine off. So I've got to do it. I'm going to suction the motor oil out using the one of the suction tools. So we got that yesterday. I'm looking at the fuel filter is actually potentially a thing, so I'm going to do that. And that's pretty much, that's where we're at right now. If I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm staring at the beautiful forest of masts and cloudy sunlight, and it's just kind of a pretty day. It doesn't film very well because it's kind of broken up with fencing and sword grass and trees and stuff, so it's not a filmographer's dream. If you look, it's kind of hard to get a picture, to get a scene out of this, but it's really pretty in your visual field because eyes don't work like cameras. So yesterday was spent getting cleaning supplies, walking to West Marine, because we're finally in civilization, and there's this kind of thing in between. We're at the edges, which is where I want to be, at the edges. So we're not close enough that I have to worry about urban decay, but we're not so far out that it's 40 minutes to get to a grocery store. So there's a 1.5 mile walk to a West Marine. So we did it. 1.25, 1.3 miles, depends on which route you take. I'll probably alternately say it's a mile or 1.5 miles, because it kind of depends on which route you take. One corner makes that much difference. So we got supplies, everything's together, we're doing really good on that. Today I'm going to dig in and look at the spark plugs, see if they're coated in oil. Hang on for a moment. And I'll get at the spark plugs, I'll get at the fuel filter and replace that, because some of the symptoms kind of seem to me like it's running really lean, and the fuel filter was replaced, and then we haven't replaced it in a couple of months, so probably 16 to 24 hours of runtime. So that actually makes a difference. That's with dirty, when you've had dirty fuel, you can sometimes have to replace the fuel filter 3 or 4 times in 40 hours. So I've done that before. So we're going to do that. Do an oil change, suck all the oil out. If I can get at the filter screen, I will. I'm pretty sure that this is a filter screen and not an oil filter model. So I've had motorcycles like that. That's fine. Usually you don't even have to mess with them. Just, change the oil with some additive, get all the gunk out, and change the oil again. It's very little oil, but marine oil is super expensive, so I'm kind of tempted to get some Walmart oil and do the first oil change and run it for half an hour, and then change it again. Don't know. We'll see how that goes. The other side of that coin is that the Walmart is actually pretty far away, so I might as well just use the oil I have. Even if it is 3 times the cost, I'm only using 800 milliliters at the most. So, what else? Then we'll see if the oil light goes out. There's theoretically some models have a timer, an oil change timer. and then you hold down the ignition key and you do some stuff to reset that, but we don't have the ignition key hooked up. We're running on a pull start. We don't have all the electric stuff hooked up, so maybe that's a thing, maybe it's not a thing. And maybe I'm going to call a mechanic and get a mechanical oil pressure gauge, and have him test it, or have access to a mechanical oil pressure gauge and have that happen. And we'll see. And if it runs good, that's fine. If it doesn't, it's expensive. And it's a decision to make whether we go with a... sorry, there's people who occasionally walking around me. It's a decision to make whether we go with a EFI fuel-injected 8 horsepower Tohatsu that's newer, which is kind of, it's a cost. A 2017 carbureted model that I can probably pick up for like $500. There's one for sale. And I'm specifically looking at going back down to an 8 horse, potentially an 8 horse with the high thrust prop and the extra long shaft, 25 inch, will do better than we're doing now in terms of actual power delivery. Of course, we'll do better if we put a high thrust prop on what we've got now. But if I have to replace it, going down to 8 horse from 9.8, fuel injected, extra long, 25 inch shaft with the right prop would mean that I don't have to move the engine very much. I may even be able to go back to just a tilt mount. It'll still have to be a little higher and a little further back than what's in the well because of the rudder, but that would make things simpler. So it's possible. And of course, at that point, when you're talking about spending that money, there's the question of, do we just go with the electric conversion or not? Anyway, we're safe. We're happy. We're going to wait out the gales and the storm that's coming at this marina and anchorage. We can pop into the marina when we need to, go out to the anchorage. The anchorage literally 500 yards that way. So it's all cheap. It's all easy. And we actually have access. You can actually get an Uber within an hour here. Not right away, but you can get an Uber. We've been in places where you can't get an Uber and you have to call 2 days in advance to schedule transit. 2 days. There's actually, apparently there's a bus line that you can catch about a mile away from here. A bus. That's crazy. I haven't been on one of those in years. And I have boat stories. Like, I remember carrying 10-foot pieces of lumber to redo a mast on Los Angeles city buses to Marina del Rey. So I've done all the crazies, and I'm probably gonna do it again. So everything's good, and we're just gonna work on the engine. And right now we're just cleaning the boat, organizing the boat. I have more rewiring projects to do, and we're in a good spot. And it's honestly the marina here with the discounts that we have. This one actually does like special DACWA, disabled veteran, all sorts of weird discounts that the staff is willing to stack because it's the off season, and if I'm not in a slip, the slip is empty. So it's actually very affordable up to a point, and we might just sit here and do a couple projects. The weather's great, and the long-term forecast for this area doesn't look bad. Like, until Christmas. So, we are a one-day run from being at the Portsmouth, Norfolk, Elizabeth River area and being able to start mile 0 on the ICW. So I'm not that stressed. The ICW is still the goal, but if we're here for a while, I could be here for 6 months. Probably not this marina and Anchorage, but in the area for 6 months. And I don't think it would bother me at all. Just do boat projects and do writing projects and maybe get some coursework done. Maybe building coursework, That's it. We're all good, and stay sideways.